Hi everyone, Joel here again, and today we're looking at After Effects and the first project I gave my students, which was to animate the school logo on a video background and learn some animation concepts along the way. So I've got a new project opened up in After Effects and I've imported two assets. I've got a school video here and I have the school logo here, which is a PNG file. And the fact that it's a PNG file means that this black area here will be transparent, which is what I want. Now, to import a file, import file, that'll do it. Or you could just double click inside the box here, and that will bring it up as well. Okay, so I'm going to first of all drag the school video down to my composition timeline. So I'm going to drag that down. And that video is 15 seconds long, and that is going to determine the length of the composition. If I wanted to change that, I would go to Composition and Composition Settings over here, and I would change the time code from 15 seconds. But I'm happy with that for now, so I'm going to leave it. Next, I'm going to bring the logo in, so I'm going to click on the logo and drag that in, but drag it on the top of the school. So it's like that. So there's our school logo, and it's nicely in the middle there, and that's scaled at 100%, which is great. Now, I also want to have a circle that this is going to be on top of. So I'm going to go up here to Layer and go to New and Shape Layer. That'll create a new layer for me to draw on. I'm going to choose this ellipse tool, and I've already chosen the color. I'll just click on this to show you. The fill color here is set at hue at 227, saturation is 100%, and the brightness is at 75%. That's the color I used anyway. Now, if I click on the fill, the word fill here for some options, you'll also notice that I've set the opacity to 50% for the fill. And I haven't gone with a gradient here, so it's just a normal fill. I've also got a stroke here. The stroke color is white, and my stroke is 18 pixels in size. So now that I've got all those settings ready, I go to my ellipse tool and I start drawing a circle, something along those lines. And I'm going to use my arrow tool now, click on the arrow, and just get that into the middle. So I'm looking for the middle point there. And for me, I'm quite lucky. There's a point here at the bottom that sort of signifies the middle. So I'm sort of matching my box there at the bottom with that spot, and that looks good to me. Now obviously the problem is it's in the wrong order, so I'm just going to close up this shape layer. I don't need the options, and I'm going to move it so it's in between the school and the logo. So that's perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to animate the logo, and we're not going to worry about the circle yet. So I'm just going to hide the circle by clicking on this little eye on the shape layer and turning it off, so that is now, it's still there, but it's not visible. And I'm going to click on the logo, and that's what I'm going to work with right now. I'm going to open up the options by clicking on the little arrow here and clicking on the transform section here. And I've got all these different elements that I can play with. And right now, today, all I'm going to be playing with is position. I found when teaching After Effects that you really need to keep it simple. I did originally have a project that got them to play with scale and opacity and rotation, and it was too much too soon. So we just looked at position to start off with. Okay, so what I want is I want this logo to be here at the 1 second mark. At 0 seconds, I want it here on the left side off screen. And at 6 seconds, I want it over here on the right off screen. So I need to set that. So the first thing is, because this is exactly in the middle, I'm going to make sure that that's set at 1 second. So I'm going to go over here to my time code. I'll click on here and I'll type in 100 for 1 second and 0 frames. And then I'm going to keyframe the position. The position are the X and Y coordinates of 960 and 540. Okay, my actual composition size here is a 1080p video, so it's 1080 by 720, so that's the resolution here. So that's the position I want. So I'm going to keyframe it by clicking on the stopwatch right there. And once I've done that, you'll notice there's a little diamond here, and that says that there's a keyframe there. And that keyframe is that the position has been set at 1 second. Now I'm going to jump to 0 seconds. So I'm going to click on here again and put in 0 and enter. And now I'm going to drag it off. Now, as I drag it off, I'm going to hold down my Shift key, and that will keep it locked into a nice straight line. And I'm going to drag it off to about there. That looks good. All right, and you can notice automatically it's created a new keyframe. I've got a new time and it's a new position, so it's automatically created a keyframe here. And as I drag this, the playhead, what we call scrubbing, you can see that between 0 and 1 second, it moves from the left to the right. Okay, now I want to jump to 6 seconds now. So I'll go here and I'll go to 6 seconds, 600, and enter. And now I'm going to drag it to the right. Same way, click and drag it, and make sure my Shift is held down so it's dragging in a perfectly straight line, and drag it to about there and let go. Now you will notice that the line that's here, which signifies the path, it looks different on each side. The first side here has these dots, these keyframes, more spaced apart than they do over here. And I asked the students, why? Why do you think that is? And most of them were able to tell me the reason is because this is a lot quicker. From 0 to 1 second, it gets into the middle. From 1 second to 6 seconds, it goes off screen. So this obviously happens a lot slower than it does at the beginning. And I did that on purpose to illustrate that point. Okay, so that's what we've got so far, but it's very slow. So what we need to do now is we need to hold it in the position, because right now it just goes to the middle and then just keeps going. I want it to hold it there for 2 seconds. So between 1 second and 3 seconds, that's the 2 second lapse. So I'm going to just make sure I'm exactly at 3 seconds by typing in 300. And what I want is right now you can see that at the moment, this is where the logo is at the 3 second mark. I want the logo to be exactly in the middle. Now this keyframe at 1 second, remember, that's the middle point. That's already recorded on that keyframe. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a little box around that so it's highlighted in blue, and I'm going to go to Edit Copy to copy that keyframe, and then I'm going to go to Edit Paste. When I click on Paste, it will paste it exactly where my playhead is. And my playhead, remember, is at the 3 second mark. So I did that on purpose before I started doing the copying and pasting. So let's paste it in. And there you go. So what that means is between 1 second and 3 seconds, which is exactly the same position at each keyframe, there is no change. So in other words, it holds its position. And then after 3 seconds, it continues through the project like that. Okay, now I have a 15-second project, and this whole thing only goes for about 6 seconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to 7 seconds, and I'm going to trim this project. And you can see up here, this is what we call the work area guides, and it starts at 0 and it finishes at 15. I'm going to trim it by pressing the key N. That's N for naughty. The kids seem to remember that. So I'll press the N button, and you can see now the project has trimmed it, so that when I save this as a video, it will only save from 0 to 7 seconds. Okay, so now we're going to preview it. So I'm going to take it back to the beginning, scrub it through to the beginning, and I'm going to press space. Now, as I do so, it's going to look very, very choppy and slow. And that's because it's loading the frames into the preview. It's what we call a RAM preview. So the first pass will be choppy and slow. And if there was sound, it would sound terrible. But that's okay. It's loading the frames into the RAM preview. I'm just going to press space to stop it. And now, back at the beginning, now when I press space, it'll run a lot smoother. Okay, so I did it deliberately like that to illustrate the point of it coming in faster at the beginning, going slower at the end. But the whole project does take a long time. 6 seconds, way, way too long. So what we're going to want to do is to tighten this up, but what I don't want to do is change the ratio between these two. If I just took this keyframe, for example, and said, look, I want to make it quicker, I'm just going to move it over here, well, that would, but then it doesn't change the others. I want the whole thing to be the same ratio between start and the middle being here and the middle and the end. I just want to tighten it up so the whole thing only goes for 4 seconds, or even 3 seconds actually, and not 6 seconds. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw a little marquee, which is a box, around all 3 or 4 I should say, all 4 keyframes that I've got. And I'm going to hold down the Alt button. Now this is important. If I just drag this, it will just drag them away, and that is not what I want to do. I'm going to go to Edit and undo that. That is not what I wanted to do. I want to hold down the Alt button and drag it. And you can see it's tightening it up, but it's keeping the ratios the same. And I'm going to keep on going until that last keyframe is approximately at the 3-second mark. Alright, so now I'm going to jump to 4 seconds, and like I did before, I'm going to trim the project by pressing N. So now the whole project only goes for 4 seconds. Let's take it back to the beginning. Let's do a RAM preview by pressing play. Again, it will be a little choppy as it loads the frames in. So we just need to be patient with that. Great, loaded them in. I'll press play, space to stop it, and space to start. Much better. Good. Now, one more thing that we need to do to give it a more realistic look. As I play it again, you'll notice that it looks very sharp, which is not a bad thing, but it's not particularly realistic. So what I say to the kids is that when you're watching something speed past you, your eyes, if you're looking through your normal eyes, sees a blur, what we call a motion blur, as things are speeding past you quite quickly. So we're going to put a motion blur effect on this to give it a slightly more realistic look. So what we're going to do is there is a motion blur button up here. I've already got it turned on. This one with the circles that are together. So it turned on as blue here, as you can see. But as well as that, that sort of turns it on for the whole project. What we need to do is we need to turn it on for each layer. So I'm actually just going to do it for the logo layer and just click on, you can see the same symbol here, right underneath it is an empty box, and I'm going to click there, puts the symbol right there. My project is auto-saving. And now the motion blur is on. So now when I play it, it's going to go through the RAM preview again, but you can already see that that motion blur is taking effect. It will look better once it's properly rendered. Alright, space to stop it and space to start again. There we go. Lovely. Alright, we're almost finished. Now, we have properly animated the logo, but we need to do the shape as well. I'm going to take it to the 1 second mark over here. I'll just drag it to 1 second there, where the logo is exactly in the middle. And now I'm going to switch on the shape layer visibility by clicking the eye back on here. Okay, so now we can see the circle there. What we want to do is we want the circle to move exactly the same way as the logo. So essentially what we want to do is we want to tell the circle, just do everything that the logo is doing. We call this a parent-child relationship, where the logo is the parent, the circle is the child, and what we say is the child does everything the parent does, which isn't real life, but that's how we do it in After Effects. So we need to establish that relationship. So really all you need to do is you need to go to the swirly thing here in the logo, the swirly thing here in the shape layer. See, there's a little swirly thing here. We're going to click it, and as we drag, there's a line, and we need to point it to the logo here and click on that. So now you see that the shape layer has a parent, and the parent is the logo. Now, as I scrub through it, you will notice, let's play it again, that it does exactly what the logo does. It's loading the RAM, so it's a bit choppy. Let's start it again. There we go. And that's it. That is the project as I wanted the kids to do. So there's quite a few things here that they've learned. They've learned about the keyframes and how they work. They've learned about the path. They've learned about parent-child relationships. They've learned about effects like motion blur. And they have learned about tightening it up and trimming it, keeping the same ratio. So lots of learning there in what is essentially a very simple 4-second motion graphics project. So that is the project that I did with After Effects to introduce it to the students. I hope you can do something similar with your students, and I hope you learn something in my project. So thank you very much for listening.